Hi guys, we're just going to go over a wee exercise that you're going to be doing next week, the first week back at the sessions. So this exercise is going to focus on hip internal rotation, or the muscles that are involved in hip internal rotation. The reason I've decided to go with this as one of the exercises in the first week is that I guess there's probably a bit of a bias in strength and conditioning programs and just generally most training programs, including myself, I think, to focus a bit more, not too much, but more so on hip external rotation and the muscles involved in that action. Mainly probably because of something called valgus knee, which is essentially where your knee comes excessively inwards during movement, whether it's jumping, running, or weight, or lifting, squatting, lunging, and the fact that this is an undesirable position to get into if it's uncontrolled. So when you're focusing on external rotation, you're trying to get the muscles involved in hip external rotation to avoid or resist valgus knee. The reason that's an undesirable position is because it's where the majority of cruciate injuries happen, and it puts the cruciate in and ligaments in there in a particularly vulnerable position. So it's something you want to try and avoid, particularly if you're lifting really heavy. And even more so if you're female. Unfortunately, it's just the way the anatomy of a female works, is that they're more at risk of this injury. But on the other side of the coin, there's also a really important element. It's maybe not, like I said, emphasised enough, and that's hip internal rotation. So we're going to focus on that today, and the way to do that, or this week should I say, and the way we're going to do that is instead of putting the band on the outside foot, so historically, if we've done this before, you've put the band on the outside foot, and the knee and the band's try to pull your knee inwards into that valgus knee position, and your job's to try and resist it by using the muscles that keep your foot in line with your knee. So to target hip internal rotation, we're going to do the opposite foot and the opposite knee. So you're going to put the band round the leg that's closest to the anchor point, as opposed to the furthest away one. And if you just stand in line with the anchor point, your foot should be in line with it. It's up to the individual to come out far enough away from the anchor point to create enough tension that they feel they're going to be working hard. Obviously, if you stand out too far, it's going to be a bit ridiculous. You're going to be lopsided. Equally, if you stand too close, there's not going to be enough tension on there to make this challenging. So if you just find a happy medium, essentially, okay, and then you're going to step back into your lunge. If you've got the tension correct, right, I want you to focus here on try to just focus on pushing your knee this way, inward, okay? And what that should do is you should feel tension through here, the muscles that are responsible for internal rotation of the hip, primarily the TFL, the glute minimus, and the glute medius to a degree. So these are the main muscles involved. From there, you could then take a weight. If you want, this is just a 6K weight. You might feel you need to go heavier. And the goal here is we want to just come up and down slowly. Right? It's to be done in a controlled way, and it gives you time to think about pushing this knee inwards so that it stays in line with the foot. And what you really want is the weight distribution in your foot to remain through the ball of the foot and the heel, as well as the outside of your foot. Obviously, because you've got the band on, there's going to be a bias towards it getting shifted to the outside of your foot. So you're going to fight that by bringing this knee inwards to keep the weight. See how my toe comes up? So that's your challenge. You're challenging, you're trying to keep everything down nice and firmly. The better you do this, the more this head is going to work here. And then you can come up and down with your lunge and just constantly, just make sure though that when you do this, you focus on making sure that you're engaging through the knee. So it's the knee that's leaning in the way, not your body, right? You're don't treat the band like a bungee from your whole body. So, and you'll really see about now, I'm finding that this is torching up this area right here. And especially if you focus on keeping that knee inwards, and then as you go down, and you will really feel the effects of this. It's so effective, really good wee exercise. And I guess one of the reasons ultimately it's going to have benefits is it just helps train the muscles that are responsible for keeping a nice bit of stability through the ankle, foot, and hip, knee and hip, for squatting, running, deadlifting, playing sports, whatever it might be. The more efficient and strong these muscles are, internal, external muscles of the hip, the more efficient, streamlined, and smooth everything's going to be when you're lifting and when you're running, okay? And it's going to be everything a bit more efficient, running stride, economy, etc. Okay, so we'll give that one a go next week.